The date is Sunday, June 22nd, 2013, and this is Daily D&D. Hey guys, welcome to Daily D&D. Today we're going to do something very fun that I've thought of and I've wanted to do for a while. And these aren't going to be your standard weekly updates. These are going to be special when I think of a movie that matters. It's not a movie review, but it's what we can learn from a movie. So today we're going to be talking about 5 things we can learn from Iron Man 3. And yes, there will kind of be spoilers. So I'm assuming that everyone here has watched Iron Man 3. It's probably not in theaters anymore. But hey, maybe you guys can go watch it. You should probably watch it before watching this if you don't want things spoiled. But I'm going to be talking about 5 key points of things that happened to Tony Stark, who is Iron Man. And I'm going to be talking about the 5 things that I picked out that a DM and the players can pick out and use in their stories to good effect. First, something that I've referred and we've learned from our campaigns is remove the airship. When you give an artifact of great power and mobility to a character, it changes how the game goes. When they're able to get from one side of the continent to an hour instead of 3 weeks, something that's happening way over there, or an item that they need to go get from way over there, isn't an epic journey. It's jumping into the car, driving down to Sam's Club, and coming back. It doesn't make that huge of a change. It doesn't make that huge of an impact anymore into the characters' lives. The distance becomes irrelative as they get faster and faster with their technology. In Iron Man 3, one of the things they did to remove the airship is first, they took away all of the suits for a good chunk of the movie. They buried him underground, so he didn't have a change of clothes, effectively. He didn't have a good, solid piece of equipment to be able to launch a fresh assault. He had to rely on a piece of old equipment that seemed to do much better than the, better kept ones ought to have. I don't know. I'm not judging that part of the movie. But it was really, interesting how they took that from him. And they also took away things like his company. He wasn't able to use all of those resources that he had. And he ended up having to do, having to save the world with effectively the clothes on his back. And, the him and not the what he has. And that's a really interesting thing. And so if your characters are able to do a lot of things, they have they can fly and be able to be hovering over the enemy castle at any time. Well, you have to come up with reasons to take the airship out of the sky. Maybe there's a flight of dragons. I don't know. There's a lot of things you can do. And sometimes it gets really horrible trying to stop the airship from happening, trying to limit the party's powers. Because you can't take away their powers without a really, really good reason. It feels really, really cheap, especially when they've put a lot of effort into acquiring those abilities. Like being able to make a knowledge check where they should be able to know pretty much everything except for this. And that's because it's in the rules and it would kind of spoil the plot. And the character isn't satisfied with that. The DM shouldn't be satisfied giving that as an answer. When a character has put a lot of effort into a character doing whatever, they should be really, really good in that field. And so, taking away the airship, subtly, tactfully, is an important way to do things. The second thing I refer to as remove Mjolnir, in which case I refer to the fact that the plot of Iron Man 3, or the character arc in Iron Man 3, was effectively the character arc in Thor. Iron Man has been having this conflict of, who is Iron Man? Is it me, Tony Stark, or is it the suit of armor? And that brings up really interesting things with Rhodey and Warbringer, or Iron Patriot, whatever you want to call it. And so throughout Iron Man 3, you see this in the character, where he's trying to do stuff as a human without a suit, but he knows he needs the suits, and that, that kind of sets up for all of his character development. But as for our D&D characters, sometimes, and this is going to be kind of rare that this comes up, but if you want to try and play it, make it seem like, hey, this character has this magical sword. well, maybe he's winning all of these victories because his magical sword. And maybe it's not him that's a hero, it's his magical sword that's making him a hero. And so there will be a time when he's removed from that magical sword. He doesn't have that sword anymore. What does he do as a character? If he just picks up another sword and goes and manages to win, yeah, it's him. But, if you can successfully put that doubt into your character, and, we'll do this more as a player. As a player, being able to have a character with that concern that it's not him doing this, it's somebody else. It's not him that deserves this reward, and yet he's getting it anyway. That's powerful character driving stuff right there. And that can be really cool to use. The third thing from Iron Man 3 that we're going to talk about is villains. Villains from the past. It's one of the big things that Iron Man 3 did. They set up the fact that, yeah, the big bad guy was invented by Tony Stark. And they did that in Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 1. Iron Man apparently makes his own villains, as well as he, is his own tailor. But, there's very interesting things in this concept. Because this wasn't, today Iron Man made somebody mad, and so they're going out and fighting him. It's 10 years ago, this guy was snubbed. This NPC, who shouldn't matter, was left to stand on a rooftop. And maybe this is something that the party did, where they refused to talk to that guy and solve his quest, and went over to this other, bigger, more impressive-looking one. And because they did that, that one guy over there had hatred that festered in his heart, because hatred and festering are awesome words to use in the same sentence. And he started coming up with ways that he could destroy this party of adventurers who sought to, who snubbed him and who treated him as if he was dirt. And that's a really interesting thing from the villain. Because when you get to the end and the villain yanks off this hood that he wears and the party looks at him and they're like, we don't know who you are. That's just going to make him more mad. And will drive home the point that, hopefully that whole campaign will drive home the point for the PCs that these NPCs could totally be other characters, important characters, and have important story arcs and stuff that they need to be aware of. And so if your PCs are being jerks, this is a cool way to be able to trap them and point it out to them without having to, say anything more obvious about it. Another thing about this topic before we move on is the movie starts with 10 years ago or 13 years ago or something like that. Some time ago, this was going on. And because Tony Stark had been so characterized, we were totally fine with this kind of a retcon. It's not really a retcon, but this gigantic beginning flashback to open up the movie. Totally fine with it, because the character wasn't acting any differently than we expected. And so if you have characters and PCs who are able to be that steady in their characterizations, you can go and refer to things that happened in the past where people are like, oh, of course things happen that way. That's just how you are. And I think that's really cool. Fourth, yeah, I think we're on fourth. Fourth is the twist. If you've seen Iron Man 3, you know what the twist is. The villain isn't really the villain, it's actually this other villain. And I don't recommend anybody trying to pull that off immediately. It has been a couple months since Iron Man 3 came out. This video is kind of late. But if you build it up to such a level, and you effectively have to do the exact same build, and it's going to be kind of suspicious if you do it. You have to do it really, really well. But if you can, that twist caught me. I did not see it coming. Everything about the movie was leading towards that twist. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. And yeah, it was amazing. I hope one day to be able to have a campaign that does that twist, or something similar to it. I don't know. I'm going to have to hold it off for a while. But I'm going to try to have something that good. Fifth and final, coincidences and plot. this is something that in Iron Man 3 showed up a lot. Sure, Iron Man flew and he's in Tennessee for some reason, and he breaks into a garage, and it's exactly what he needs to try and fix the armor. And he walks into a bar, and there's somebody there with a folder of information for him, talking to him about the thing. And there were a lot of scenes in the movie that did similar things like this, that when you looked at it from just that narrow perspective, it was very, wow, this is an amazing coincidence. Why are the villains here? Why is this going on? Why is this going on? And it's true. It was kind of, and it's true, it was kind of ridiculous how some of these things happened. But when you're playing D&D, and your characters are going off on a wild goose chase, and they've run and they've started talking to, going to every single stable to see if any of the horses can sign a piece of paper. Happened to me. You end up having to have random coincidences of people coming up and talking to the party who would not normally talk to the party just to get them on the right path. And that happened a lot in Iron Man 3. And honestly, I was looking for kind of a fifth one, and I got one that was kind of shaky, so I'm sorry about that. But I think that's a very valid thing that we can learn. When the party is off doing something stupid, make a coincidence happen so that they can focus on the right things and move the story along instead of just stalling everything. So that's what I got for you guys today, the 5 things we can learn for gaming from Iron Man 3. My name is Mamrat Wankow. This has been Daily D&D. You guys stay online. I will see you next time.